Hello, and we are back on Democracy's Edge, only on News Radio AM 1450 KMMS here in Bozeman. If you have a question for our guest, Stephen Zarlenga, and that's a question, our number is 522-8255-522-TALK. I'm Dead Rock Dave.
And I'm Lady Di, and we're here with Stephen. Stephen, when you mentioned Naomi Klein, she has at the beginning of her book, or the very frightening sentence or thought by Milton Friedman that he said when there's a crisis, that happens, people turn to the ideas lying around, and he wanted to make sure that every time there was a crisis, whether it was caused by us or somebody, or it was a natural disaster, people would rush in with his ideas, which I call the Friedman flim-flam feudalism thing. And I think instead the ideas, your ideas, are lying around, and we should use your ideas, not his ideas.
I like that.
You know?
Yeah.
And we also, in the break, tell them, Dave.
Well, the more I read here and your ideas, and they seem so American, and you understand this so much, how come you're not, are you going to be our next Secretary of the Treasury?
Well,
can we nominate you?
Can we nominate you?
Gee, well, that would be good, but certain people would have to become president for that to happen.
Okay.
Now, this is a battle. This is a battle, and we trace it at least back to Aristotle, and it's fought with words, and the battle is over the control of the money system, and it always comes down to the same argument. Should it be privately controlled or publicly controlled? Well, if it's publicly controlled, you have a chance that it can be used to benefit the whole society. If it's privately controlled, they're going to run it for their own benefit. So it's fought with language. It's over the concept of money, and it's so important. And one of the reasons that we put that American Monetary Act on the website 2 years ago, and we continue to develop it, was to be ready when a crisis hit. Mm-hmm. Because we knew that the crisis was coming. We didn't know exactly when or exactly what mechanism, although we've had Michael Hudson at our conferences the last couple of years, and he's the one who pointed out the housing debacle, and the bursting of that bubble was due in a front-page Harper's Magazine article. So
when was that? When did Michael do that?
Oh, it was about 2 years ago,
okay.
2 or 3 years ago. And we knew that these problems were in the system because Di and Dave, the ultimate problem is there's no money out there. It's all credit. And in a crisis, credit evaporates. It just disappears. Mm-hmm. But government money doesn't disappear. Now, at the present time, only about 3% of our money supply is coins and bills, and you could consider that the government money. And the coins are an excellent example because they don't say Federal Reserve notes. They're issued by the Treasury through our mints. We don't borrow the money to issue coinage. We simply stamp the coins, and it's not a quarter's worth of metal or artwork. It's worth what the stamp says it's worth. That's the law. And the thing is, coins could be any denomination. They could be much more, whatever. Or they don't have to be minted. They can be on paper, notes, or I don't even like to call them notes because that indicates debt to many people. In the greenback era, some of the greenback reformers really understood this, and so they didn't want to call the greenbacks notes. And the word that they had for them was certificates of value. And in all the historical reading I've done, that's the best terminology I've found anywhere, except for our own terminology. We call it money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really...
That concept of money is being taken out of the English language, so that when people are talking about money, they're usually talking about credit, and when they're talking about credit, they call it money, and it's not really. So we put a stop to that removal of the terminology money from the language.
Mm-hmm.
So this certificates of value sounds like actually a good phrase.
It's a good phrase.
Because it goes back to what we value,
Sure.
and the value of family.
The value of work.
The value of work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, people seem under the impression. Wow, the phone lines are just starting to light up. Would you like to take a few questions?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Sure.
now if you want to call in, we'd like to have questions. So caller number 1 we're going to have on here. Do you have a question for our guest, Stephen?
I have two.
Okay.
The first question is this. Under your plan, the 1.6 trillion in infrastructure needs would only cost about 800 billion, half, because we're not paying interest on the money. Is that correct?
Well, no. When the engineers make that estimate, they're not counting the interest costs. They're counting just the expenditure
just
costs.
counting
You're
the
right.
expenses.
You're correct. The interest cost would at least double if we did
Right.
1.6 trillion worth of infrastructure now through borrowing. The real cost would be at least double and probably closer to triple with the interest.
My second question is this. Under your system, and I really like your system, by the way,
Oh, thank you.
and we've talked about this for a long time. Under your system, that the money would stay in circulation as opposed to having it being removed from circulation through the Federal Reserve Bank. When it is paid, when it gets to New York, it's removed, creating a problem with credit again. It's a constant need for credit because as debts get paid, the money is removed from the system as opposed to being allowed
right.
to circulate.
That's
Oh.
correct. That is correct, and that is one of the huge advantage of what we're doing, and it also demonstrates the insanity of the existing system. The existing
Amen.
system is so unjustifiable, and the way that we like to argue on this is regarding the unfairness of it, the immorality of it. See, if you get into economic arguments, the opposition, the established banking establishment, they're happy to argue over those details forever, as long as they're in control in the meantime.
Yes, and they are. They have the right.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve has the right to issue credit in this country through Congress. They gave them the right. Am I mistaken there?
We have allowed, through the banking accounting rules, even the member banks are in a position to issue what we use for money, which is their credit. They'll get a borrower to sign over his life to the bank and call that an asset, and then loan him the funds by simply creating it, putting it into the account. Not printed, it's just written in the account. And that is what passes for money in our system. And as you pointed out, when a bank loan gets repaid, that money, so-called money, is no longer in circulation.
Creating a credit problem again.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending cycle when we pay interest on our own money and we're dumb.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pete. That's perfect. We're dumb. We're dumb. That's
What
it.
we're doing now is dumb.
Well, that's
Okay,
right.
did we have another phone call on there? Right, no, we don't have anyone on the line now. Yes, I'm looking at your website here, too, that some people might think, if you just print money, you're going to create inflation.